All right. Well, I think we should get started. Um, each year we pause and reflect on the life and work of Dr. King. I think we've been doing these readings and songs for about 30 years. Obviously, this year is a little different, but you can't stop us. You just can't do it. So not even a pandemic can stop us. It can change us. It can make us have to be flexible, but you can't stop us because this is a good idea come. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a video, a real short, it's a song to kind of put us in a certain mood. And there's a story behind the song, and we'll tell that when it's over. And by the way, thank you to Franklin Hughes, who's going to help us navigate through this today. So go ahead, Franklin.
Oh, sorry, hold on. I selected the wrong one.
This song says, no matter who you are, no matter where you go in your life, at some point you're gonna need somebody to stand by you. Oh yeah, oh my darling, stand by me. No matter who you are, no matter where you go in life, you gonna need somebody to stand by you. No matter how much money you got, all the friends you got, you gonna need somebody to stand by you. When the night has come
on, brother,
and the land is dark, and that moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't shed one tear. Just as long as your people come and stand by me. And darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Come on, stand by me. Yeah. Oh, when that sky that we look upon, well, she tumble and fall on the mountains, they should crumble into the sea. I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Please stand by me. Stand by me. And darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Please stand by me. Stand by me. Oh, baby, baby. not as long as you, yeah, stand by me. Hey, yeah. Thank you, thank you.
Well, that's a good place to start. And we have a little story about that. We took a Ferris team down to NCORE, the National Conference of Race and Ethnicity. This is back when Fritz was the provost. And we took a team down to New Orleans, and we had the opportunity. We're walking down the street on Bourbon Street, I think it was Bourbon Street, and turned around and looked and saw one of the principal singers from that. So Frank, I don't know if you could pull something up with that.
For coming to my home.
All right, baby, okay.
But I hear about.
No, it's about,
your home.
I'm from Mobile.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. These some northern folks here, but I'm from Mobile.
South Carolina.
South Carolina, right.
Yeah.
She over there represents South
Thank you,
Carolina.
brother.
All right.
Yeah. Well, thank you, sir.
And thank you.
Take care.
So that was a pretty sweet moment when we met him. So we're going to start our presentations with one from the Academic Literacy Center.
Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when this happens, and when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Hello. Welcome to MLK Day. My name is Karen Royster James. I'm the supervisor for tutoring and structured learning assistance in the Academic Literacy Center at Ferris State University. So you want to know what I have a dream for? I have a dream for peace, for my family, for my country, my community, Ferris State University, and the entire world. Dr. King said, peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Peace by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mickey Mills. Happy Martin Luther King Day. I can make the world a better place by reminding myself that my actions or inactions can have consequences, and my treatments of situations may have a profound impact on another. It's my ethical responsibility to do my part in being a good example and behave harmonious amidst people. I can make the world better by listening twice as much as I speak, being thoughtful of others' perceptions as it is their reality, not mine, and I need to respect that. Realizing one's path in life has a profound effect on the character and persona of an individual. Rich or destitute, educated or skilled, city or farm, loved or bullied, young or old, wise or weird, they have worth, valuing their opinions, and a place in this world. I have a dream for friendship without barriers, kindness without reproach, peace without doubt, love without sin, respect without betrayal, understanding without judgment. God doesn't make mistakes, am I right?
That's right.
Have a happy and healthy day.
Hi, my name is Riley Bluen. I have a dream for my country that as the average worker's knowledge ever increases, the amount of schooling provided by this country will also increase. This includes higher education for those in white-collar and blue-collar fields, so the average American has more financial power when entering the workforce. I can make the world better by always teaching people around me what I have learned. Knowledge is power, and the more we can spread that to those around us, the further we can progress as a people. If our country has the attitude that sharing knowledge is better than harboring it, we could progress even further and faster, making us a single force to be reckoned with and not a divided public.
I don't have a dream at this point, at least not a concrete one. But what I do know is how I can make the world a better place, and that's by having hope and having faith in people that they will continue to rise above each challenge that's thrown at them, just as I will try to do. That's all we can really ask for in a time like this. It's just to keep strong and carry on.
Hi, my name is Savannah Torrey, and I'm a senior here at Ferris State University, and I'm going for a bachelor's in mathematics education at the secondary level. My dream is to leave the planet cleaner than it was before. So I want to invest in sustainable solutions, and I also want to inform people that there are other ways that we can make sure that we have a clean environment and leave it better for the next generation. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Adam Kasiba. I can make the world better as a doctor for patients in medically underserved communities, much like that of Mecosta County. Ferris has given me the academic support and fantastic opportunities to help me become accepted to Michigan State University for medical school, where I hope to earn an education that allows me to care for and treat patients in a manner that gives back to my local community, hopefully similar to the Ferris State area. I have a dream that all humans will one day have access to affordable medical care. And though we can begin with the United States, our service and outreach to poor areas of the world will certainly make a difference. Many of our patients, even Americans, do not know the access that they have to medical care, and hopefully I can begin to provide this for them. So as a proud Ferris State Bulldog and future physician, I can make the world better by providing caring, compassionate service to others, and I look forward to doing this for the rest of my life. Thank you.
I can make the world better by being positive and spreading kindness. It's said that positivity breeds positivity, and individual contributions can lead to a chain reaction of kindness and positivity among many others.
I can make the world better by encouraging others, creating a welcoming space, and including everyone around me.
I have a dream that there will be equality in pay and recognition in STEM fields, especially the sciences, large businesses, corporations, CEOs, CFOs, all the above. We need more recognition for women and for other types of minorities within these fields and within the world. That's my dream.
I have a dream that America will be a peaceful place where no one faces hatred and discrimination.
Hi, my name's Lucille Webb, and I'm a senior at Ferris. I have a dream of making a difference in healthcare by gaining my education from Ferris State University.
I have a dream for my community, that we can unite together and work towards building an inclusive environment that brings people together. And I can make a difference by volunteering around my community and bringing a smile to those who have struggled and who have faced tremendous hardships through this time.
We can make the world better by being kind to others.
My name is Canyon Sherrick, and I'm a student at Ferris State University. Thought that I would share a small way I think I can make the world a better place. So I've always had a passion for helping people, and as much as I think it's a good thing to help somebody right in the moment and give them what they need to succeed right then and there, I think something truly special happens when you go above and beyond and put a little bit more time in to help somebody to help themselves. And what I mean by that is giving somebody the resources and helping them in a way that makes them confident in themselves, that enables themselves, that gives them the independence they need, and ultimately helps them to help themselves so they can learn how to help others. So I am an SLA facilitator this semester, and I hope to not only put this above and beyond helping into action, but I hope that I can inspire others to do just the same.
I can make the world better by being the teacher who goes above and beyond for her students.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you very much. Our next reading, find my glasses here, is from President Eisler. No, Dave, you're not reading. This is a reading you did previously.
Dr. King's public orations about racial discrimination began when he was a teenager in Alabama. He knew what was right and what was wrong. He understood the difference between civility and incivility, or what it meant to be perceived as unequal to others because of the color of his skin. He published his first book, Stride Toward Freedom, at the age of 29. At age 33, he was pressing for civil rights with John F. Kennedy. At 35, he won the Nobel Peace Prize at 35. He spent his entire adult life fighting valiantly for civility, social justice in a world that did not yet exist, a world in which black people were treated with the same respect, civility, and rights afforded to white people. Great strides were made during the Civil Rights Movement because of Dr. King's leadership and courage to do what was right. However, at the young age of 39, King was assassinated on April 4th, 1968. While he was taken from the world much too soon, he made an indelible impression on our country. Before Dr. King's time, there were individuals like Woodbridge and Helen Ferris, the founders of our university. Much like Dr. King, they had a vision that was greater than their time. As a child, the public orations of Harriet Beecher Stowe and Frederick Douglass greatly influenced Mr. Ferris. Later into his adult life, Booker T. Washington, W.E. Du Bois, and Franz Boas significantly shaped his philosophies and convictions on racism. When the Ferrises created their institution in 1884, they did so to give people who did not have an education that opportunity, an opportunity for all people who yearned for the chance for an education, a better life. They created a place where underprivileged men and women had the opportunity to acquire an education regardless of race or social standing. In 1918, Mr. Ferris wrote a letter published in the Ann Arbor Negro Yearbook, where he spoke of race relations. Here are a few paragraphs from this letter. Professor Boas has convinced me that inborn racial differences are few and worthy of little consideration. Any attempt to show that there is a natural gulf between the colored race and the white race must result in failure. No one questions the existence of an artificial gulf between the two races, a man-made gulf. This man-made gulf has militated against the progress of both races in America. This gulf has established class distinctions. In a democracy, class distinctions are odious, are perilous. Our 10 million colored people are with us. They are here not because they sought this country as a haven of rest, because they were brought here in the bondage to the white race. The Civil War banished slavery, but it's too early in American history to declare that a subtle slavery has not been substituted. He concluded these insightful comments with this: any influence that savors of hate is ruinous. The one regenerating power in the world is love. Love is not a racial factor. It is a universal factor that makes for patriotism, that makes for democracy. This is the only influence that can save the world from racial hatred, that can save a nation from disintegration. All races in America have one patriotic obligation. The greater burden rests upon the white natives of America. This race has been blessed above all other races. Consequently, its obligation is imperative. The progress of the colored race means that the progress of the white race. The enduring progress of the white race means the progress of the colored race. We shall continue to live together, therefore. We must work together under one flag to one end, the more abundant life. Amazing words from Mr. Ferris in 1918. He established a culture at this university that continues to this day. We're an institution with an unwavering commitment to diversity, inclusion, and equality. This commitment is not something you simply start and finish. It is ongoing, every day. It is important we celebrate days like today, days when we can advance our conversations about race, diversity, and inclusion, not only here on campus, but in our communities, our churches, and beyond. In 1957, Dr. King lectured to students, faculty, and visitors at Ohio's Oberlin College, shortly after winning the Nobel Peace Prize. During his speech, The Future of Integration, he made a very simple yet very profound statement. The time is always right to do what's right. The time is always right to do what's right. As we remember Dr. King today, let us not only challenge ourselves, but each other to speak up when things are not right. Let us boldly continue Dr. King's mission for social justice, civility, and doing what is right. And let us remember Mr. Ferris' vision of working together, understanding that the one regenerating power in the world is not hate, but love, working together to one end. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think most of you know that Franklin and I worked on a book actually about our founder. And one of the messages of that book is this: when we promote an inclusive environment, we honor our founder. And when we don't, we dishonor the institution that he created. Toward that end, we have our next reading, which is from Jacqueline Hughes.
Before I read my selection, I would like you to think back over 100 years ago about what America was like in 1915. It was the progressive era, a period of widespread social activism and political reform focused on eliminating problems caused by industrialization, immigration, urbanization, and corruption in government. The president was Woodrow Wilson, a Democrat. On January 12th, the House of Representatives rejects a proposal to give women the right to vote. On February 8th, the film Birth of a Nation premieres. Babe Ruth hits his first career home run on May 6th. On May 7th, after 128 Americans were killed from a U-boat attack, President Woodrow Wilson insisted that America is too proud to fight in World War I, but he demanded an end to attacks on passenger ships. The Great Migration began in 1915, where Southern blacks moved to major northern cities such as Chicago, Detroit, Pittsburgh, and New York. Jewish American Leo Frank is lynched for the alleged murder of a 13-year-old girl in Atlanta. The consensus of researchers on the subject is that Frank was wrongly convicted. On November 14th, Booker T. Washington dies. In 1915, the Women's Peace Party was organized. 56 black Americans are known to have been lynched, and the first stop sign was put up in Detroit, Michigan. Some of us have parents or grandparents who were born in 1915. My grandmother and her 7 siblings, all fair-complected, were born within this era about 25 miles east of here in Remus, Michigan. These are some of the things that happened during the year that my passage was written. In remembering the viewpoints that people held in 1915, I hope you will perceive just how radical and forward-thinking the author of this passage was. I will be reading a passage from the 1915 Michigan Manual of Freedmen's Progress. This is a section from the address that Governor Woodbridge N. Ferris gave at the Lincoln Jubilee for Michigan Day on August 26, 1915. My passage is entitled Race Hatred in Michigan. Several years ago, a young lady arrived at the Ferris Institute on a Friday evening. A young lady student escorted her to a boarding place. The following Monday morning, the landlady of this boarding house came to my office and demanded an immediate interview. She said that she had been insulted. She said that I had sent to her boarding house a colored girl. I confess that the girl was so nearly white that I did not for a moment think of her as having African blood in her veins. The landlady further said that all of her roomers would leave if the colored girl was allowed to remain at her boarding house. I asked if the colored girl roomed alone. Her reply was that she did. I said to the landlady that I could not believe that she had reported correctly that what her girl boarders had said. I asked that she send me at noon on Monday a list of the young ladies who would leave her boarding house in the event that the colored girl was allowed to stay. Monday noon, a report came with nearly every name signed to the protest. I was obliged to remove the colored girl to a home where there were no students boarding in order that she might attend Ferris Institute. On the following morning, I said to the school that I supposed I was living in Michigan, but I concluded, after describing this experience, that I was living in Louisiana. The Ferris Institute is one of the most democratic schools in the United States. It has no color line, it has no age limit, it has no educational requirements for admission. It is open to every man and woman, every boy and girl who are hungering for an education. This makes the attitude of the girls of this particular boarding house all the more remarkable. For some strange reason, colored boys can attend the Ferris Institute without being ostracized. I may add that a colored boy never so much as attempts to walk from the building to a boarding place with a white girl. This, the white boys would doubtless resent. I have done everything in my power to eliminate this race prejudice. Although the school is 31 years of age, up to the present hour, we have not succeeded in maintaining a real democracy. Colored girls are treated with a fair degree of respect by the white girls in classes and in regular school exercises. But in a social function, the white girls manage in some way to bar out the colored girls. I am inclined to think that Eastern universities, colleges, seminaries, and high schools are more democratic than similar institutions of the West. In Unity, a religious paper here in Chicago, under the date of August 19th, a letter by Jenkins Lloyd Jones to Mrs. Ella Flagg Young, Superintendent of City Schools, appears. In his sermon delivered on January 10th, 1915, he states that the Chicago papers refused to print this letter. In this letter, he makes a protest against recent segregation of segregation of colored lines in the Wendell Phillips High School. In other words, Mr. Jenkins Lloyd Jones, in the year 1915, in the city of Chicago, in the state of Illinois, United States of America, is protesting against the same race prejudice that I have described in my own illustration. Perhaps I have already said too much about race hatred, or, if you prefer the milder expression, race prejudice. It seems to me, however, that we shall not be able to secure for Afro-Americans the educational rights, the social rights, and the political rights that they are entitled to without first eliminating, in a large measure, race hatred.
So once again, that's an example of our founder. These students got together and said, oh, we don't want to live with this student. We found out that she has African ancestry. He's upset and disappointed, has to find her another place. This is before Ferris had residential halls. Two notes there. One, keep in mind, this was his life's work. And so for him in a public space to share this thing that he found so repulsive must have been very difficult for him. And also, for those of you that have read the book, you know that probably the first residential hall that was built, or residential facility for students, was done for the African-American students who came up from Hampton Institute here in the early 1900s. So once again, when we create an institution of inclusiveness, we honor our founder. When we don't, we dishonor our founder. Our next reading is from Mike Wade, who is doing well down in South Carolina, and he'll be doing well in this video.
Now, the thing about the length of life, after accepting ourselves and our tools, we must discover that we are called to do. And once we discover it, we should set out to do it for all of the strength and all of the power that we have in our systems. And after we discover what God called us to do, and after we discovered our life's work, we should set out to do that work so well that the living, the dead, or the unborn couldn't do it any better. What I'm saying to you this morning, my friends, even if it falls your lot to be a street sweeper, go on out and sweep streets. Like Michelangelo painted pictures. Sweep streets like Handel and Beethoven composed music. Sweep streets like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Sweep streets so well that all the host of heaven and earth will have to pause and say, here lived the great street sweeper who swept his job well. If you can't be a pine on the top of a hill, be a scrub in the valley. But be the best little scrub on the side of the hill. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. If it isn't by size that you win or fail, be the best of whatever you are. Now, there will be a day, and the question won't be, how many awards did you get in life? Not that day. It won't be, how popular were you in your social setting? That won't be the question that day. It will not ask how many degrees you've been able to get. The question that day will not be concerning with whatever you are, a PhD or a no D. It will not be concerned with whether you went to Morehouse or whether you went to no house. The question that day will not be how beautiful is your house. The question that day will not be how much money did you accumulate? How much did you have in stocks and bonds? The question that day will not be what kind of automobile did you drive? On that day, the question will be, what did you do for others? Now I can hear somebody saying, Lord, I did a lot of things in life. I did my job well. The world honored me for doing my job. I did a lot of things, Lord. I went to school and studied hard. I accumulated a lot of money. Lord, that's what I did. It seems as if I can hear the Lord of life saying, but I was hungry, and ye fed me not. I was sick, and ye visited me not. I was naked, and ye clothed me not. I was in prison, and you weren't concerned about me. So get out of my face. What did you do for others? This is the breath of life. Go out this morning. Love yourself. And that means rational and healthy self-interest. You are commanded to do that. That's the length of life. Then follow that. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. You are commanded to do that. That's the breath of life. And I'm going to take my seat now by letting you know that there's a first and even greater commandment. Love the Lord thy God with all your heart, with all thy soul, with all thy strength. I think the psychologist would just say, with all thy personality. And when you do that, you've got the height of life. And when you get all three of these together, you can walk and never get weary. You can look up and see the morning stars singing together and the sons of God shouting for joy. When you get all of these things working together in your very life, judgment will roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Thank you.
Yeah, those are words for Dr. King, read by, I don't want to get sad. Mike Wade's doing good work where he is, so read by Mike Wade. We went to DC to the monument and noticed that, there weren't any references to King as a minister. And the fact of the matter is that that's most definitely what he was. And that excerpt from one of his sermons reminds us of that. The next will be a piece that Franklin put together with me narrating.
I have a brother who lives as a white man. He is the principal of Cedarbrook Elementary School in Bakersfield, California. He has a wife, a son, and a daughter. I have not met him. I have not met them. If my brother were here today, he would politely deny our kinship. I understand. It takes two men to make a brother. I have a brother serving 5 years in Atmore State Penitentiary. Even as a child, he took things that didn't belong to him. He is scheduled for release on January 21, 2024. No one will be there to welcome him. He is a thief, a career criminal, and I, despite a log in my eye, can see the speck in his. I have a brother who was the pastor of Mount Olive Baptist Church in Pittsburgh, the second largest black church in Pennsylvania. He was the most powerful public speaker I've heard. It was like listening to Moses. His voice booming, arms flailing, he would preach until his shirt was drenched with sweat. But before the shirt was dry, he would have some young sister spinning in the back seat of his BMW. One day he left that big church and started a ministry for the homeless and those afflicted with AIDS. A newspaper reporter asked why he'd left Mount Olive, and he answered, "I got saved." Today he lives as much as is humanly possible, a life devoid of even a hint of hypocrisy. A year ago, a thought came into my head and took residence. Forgive the likely hyperbole, but this thought tortured me, ripped me. It was not an original thought, nor was it especially profound. It wouldn't go away. It wouldn't leave me alone. I tried to not think the thought, which of course cemented it in my mind, this thought that tortured me. 5 words, 5 simple words. It seems so melodramatic, so silly to say that one was tortured by a thought, but I was. I remember when the thought came. I was delivering a lecture at a conference in Indiana, and I said something, the thought, and the audience applauded. I am a professor, meaning I like applause and rarely get it, so I said it again. This time the audience stood, clapped, some even cheered. On the return drive to Michigan, those 5 words came back to me, and I, like my brother, felt like a charlatan. The 5 words were these: every man is my brother. I've never believed that, and again I don't know why I said it that first time. Why did anyone say anything? I have certainly lied before. White ones, black ones, big ones, ones not so big. It was a lie because I didn't believe it, yet I had said it twice. I thought, what's the big deal? People say things. Orators say things. It sounded good. It worked. What's the harm? No one will remember. Maybe I didn't really say it. People misspeak. There is a hypocrite hugging my children. Professors say things. It sounded good. What's the harm? I thought those things. But it did matter, and later it mattered more. It's so corny to say every man is my brother. It sounds like something you'd read in Mother Jones magazine, or maybe even Reader's Digest. I've always felt a kinship with men of color, especially brown ones. I like it when we say, yo, what's up, brother? Or, what's happening, brother? Or, true that, brother. A shared history of oppression will make you call a stranger brother or brother. But even in those cases, it was purely symbolic. I didn't think we were actually brothers. Weeks and months passed, and I couldn't get the thought out of my head. One day I was in the Jim Crow Museum and I saw a postcard with a black man being publicly whipped. I've seen that postcard many times. After all, I bought it. I put it in the cabinet, and it's in my presentations. I looked at that man being beaten, and I thought my brother was being beaten, publicly, naked to the waist, beaten like a dog, worse than a dog. At that moment, I felt in a way that I can't describe that he was indeed my brother, not my symbolic brother, no, a real brother. I wanted to run to him, rip him from the post, and beat his tormentors. I wanted to hold him, hold his head to my chest, and tell him that his brother, this brother, cared for him and had come to rescue him. My God, he really was my brother. Later, I tried to talk to some people about it, but most folk won't go with you when you're tripping. Sometimes when I went to the museum, I would not look at that postcard. Sometimes it was all I looked at. One day, I looked, and in the postcard, I saw a little white boy. He was standing near my beaten brother. And that little boy, he was not laughing, not protesting either, just standing there near the white man with the whip. And I looked at that child, and it hit me like a heel to the face. That little boy was also my brother. And I thought, no, I don't want this. He hates me before he knows the 5th grade. I want to cuss him and the woman who made him. His brother is the white man with the whip. My brother is the black man being beaten. How can that child be my brother? I don't want this. And then I understood the thought that tortured me. It wasn't only or even primarily that I had said something in a public lecture that I didn't believe. I've done that too many times for that to torture me. No, the real torture was the realization that maybe, just maybe, all men are my brothers, and I didn't want that. I tried to dismiss those 5 words as a hollow religious slogan, liberal tripe, mawkish muck from the mouths of idealistic zealots. Why? Because if that little boy was my brother, then so was the white man with the whip. My heart said, he's not my brother, he's a monster. I don't hate the whip, I hate him. I don't hate what he stands for, I hate him. I want to make him feel the whip, strip him naked, beat him till my arm is tired, and beat him like he is not a child of God. Put his naked white back on a postcard. If he's my brother, then so was every slaveholder who raped a girl or boy. I don't want that. That's too much. Every overseer, every lyncher, every foot on a neck. I don't want this. Every man is my brother. It changes nothing. And from that deepest place came one last yowl. No, no, no. My Uncle Sonny looks like the black man who was being beaten. And that little white boy who stood and watched looks like my son Jamie. Every man is my brother. It doesn't matter if I want it or not. In a moment, the idle thought became a truth, a matter-of-fact truth, absolute. I am the only male born from my mother's womb, but every man is my brother. White elementary school principals who deny me, prisoners who rob, preachers who leave big churches to help the helpless, every man. This kinship is not based on shared wombs, common ancestors, similar skin, communal beliefs, or brotherly love. We are brothers because we spring from the same fountain, and that water flows one way. I can hate a man, but he is still my brother. I admired Dr. King and detested James Earl Ray, but they were both my brothers. We don't choose our brothers. George Bush is my brother, and so is the man who made his breakfast this morning, and Stevie Wonder, who cannot see, and David Duke, who chooses not to, and Leonard Peltier and the men he killed or didn't kill, and Reverend Pat Robertson and his white sons, and Minister Farrakhan and his black sons, and Bill Gates, who has more money than the devil, and Eminem, always bitter, and brothers who cry and brothers who need to cry. And the men who crashed airplanes into the Twin Towers were my brothers, and they killed my brothers. And pimps are my brothers too, and date rapists, and punks, and brothers slinging dope, and Dylan Roof, a young man robbed of the truth, and Donald Trump, who believes he is the truth, and moonshiners, and revenuers, and Jerry Springer, who brings me down, and Stephen Hawking, who lifts me, and brothers who live as white men, and brothers who live as black men, and brothers who live as red men, and brothers who don't want to live, but none are niggers, kikes, crackers, wops, chinks, or fags, because God didn't make any of those. And the men in Abu Ghraib photographs are my brothers, and so are the men who behead the helpless. And Jared Fogle is my brother, and so is Bill Cosby, and Cain, and Abel, and hawks, and doves, and those who sleep in urine-stained hallways, and malicious talkers, and Jon Stewart, and Bill O'Reilly, and the men who carry their bags, and capitalists, and communists, and some are beautiful, and some disfigured. Some run, some sit always in iron chairs and villages. Some are strangers, but none are alien. And brothers with tender hearts, and wicked brothers, and weak ones like me. O.J. Simpson is my brother, and so is the father of Nicole Simpson. I've got brothers I want to hit, and brothers I want to hold, and some who hate me, and some who hate you. And some of my brothers are old, some poor, some ugly, some with whips and strong right arms. Every day is a family reunion because every man, every good man, and every bad one, every man born of a woman is my brother. And to know this changes nothing, changes everything. My son is Eustace Jameson Pilgrim. After his 5th birthday, I asked him, "How do you like being 5?" He said he liked being 5 because the number 5 was cute. He is my son. He is my little brother. One day he said to me, "I don't love you." He saw my frown. He smiled and said, "Dad, it's opposite day." I said, "Oh, then I don't love you either." My son is my brother, and that changes everything. A reshuffling of the cards, and he is the man with the whip, or the man being beaten. Either way, my brother, my little brother. Today I will hold his head to my chest. He is my son, he is my brother, and I am his keeper. A new thought has entered my head and taken residence. It is not an original thought, nor is it especially profound. I will not let it torture me. It is a simple thought, and it is this: every woman is my sister.
All right, our next reading is from Kimmy.
Good morning. The poem that I'll be sharing with you today is titled Continue by Maya Angelou, and it was originally written as a birthday gift to Oprah Winfrey. But I think it fits very well for me, it does, for the theme of this, what does Martin Luther King Jr., what it means to me. So, I read. On the day of your birth, the Creator filled countless storehouses and stockings with rich ointments, luscious tapestries, and antique coins of incredible value. Jewels worthy of a queen's dowry, they were set aside for your use. Alone, armed with faith and hope, and without knowing of the wealth which awaited, you broke through dense walls of poverty and loosed the chains of ignorance which threatened to cripple you so that you could walk free into a world which needed you. My wish for you is that you continue. Continue to be who and how you are, to astonish a mean world with your act of kindness. Continue to allow humor to lighten the burden of your tender heart. Continue in a society dark with cruelty to let the people hear the grandeur of God in the peals of your laughter. Continue to let your eloquence elevate the people to heights they had only imagined. Continue to remind the people that each is as good as the other and that no one is beneath nor above you. Continue to remember your own young years and look with favor upon the lost and the least and the lonely. Continue to put the mantle of your protection around the bodies of the young and the defenseless. Continue to take the hand of the despised and diseased and walk proudly with them in the high street. Some might see you and be encouraged to do likewise. Continue to plant a public kiss of concern on the cheek of the sick and the aged and infirm, and count that as a natural action to be expected. Continue to let gratitude be the pillow upon which you kneel to say your nightly prayer. And let faith be the bridge you build to overcome evil and welcome good. Continue to ignore no vision which comes to enlarge your range and increase your spirit. Continue to dare to love deeply and risk everything for the good thing. Continue to float happily in the sea of infinite substance, which set aside riches for you before you had a name. Continue, and by doing so, you and your work will be able to continue eternally. Thank you.
Next reading is from Julie Alexander.
Hello, my name is Julie Alexander. Outside of my work here at Ferris, I am a member of a Unitarian Universalist congregation. UU congregations across the country, and the one I'm a part of is no exception, are looking at adding to their guiding principles a commitment to dismantling racism and other oppressions. I am part of a group in my church that is looking at adding this language to our principles and voting to adopt it. Today, I would like to read to you an abridged letter from the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Columbia Board of Trustees on the importance of adopting this principle. It gives a little bit of background and why it is seen as important. We're certain that many congregations have heard that in June, we will be voting about something called the 8th principle. We had a conversation about this in late February 2020, but since COVID-19 hit, many of our discussions have been stalled. Therefore, we thought it might help to offer some context and perspective about what this is and why we're asking for the congregation's endorsement of this principle. As a community of faith, we Unitarian Universalists come together by way of different paths to affirm and promote our shared commitment to our 7 principles. Rather than subscribing to a particular holy book or creed dating back many centuries, we embrace our principles as strong values and moral guides, recognizing that we UUs and our denomination ever remain as works in progress. We live out our 7 principles within a living tradition of wisdom and spirituality, drawn from 6 sources as diverse as science, poetry, scripture, and personal experience. As Reverend Barbara Wells Ten Hove explains, the principles are not dogma or doctrine, but rather a guide for those of us who choose to join and participate in Unitarian Universalist religious communities. The origins of the proposed 8th UU principle. Although our history is not spotless, UUs have often and long been at the forefront of combating racism in the United States. From calls for the abolition of slavery in the late 1700s, through active engagement in the civil rights movement in the 1960s, where some UUs gave their lives, to subsequent decades of striving to promote social justice, UUs have helped push the nation to examine its shortcomings and contradictions, to evolve in our individual and collective understanding of our nation's founding ideals, and to expand their reach to those who have been marginalized. As recent events have shown us, many Americans are still deprived from access to liberty, equality, and justice. Our existing UU principles call us to affirm, among other things, the inherent worth and dignity of each person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, and the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Many UUs contend that the absence of any mention of racism and other oppressions is a glaring omission. They point out that the worst crises of the Unitarian Universalist Association in the late 60s and now were both related to race. Racism in the US stems from chattel slavery, where people were uniquely legally treated as property that could be inherited for something they had no control over, skin color. Although slavery was made illegal, full equality in the US remains elusive for many Black Americans and other people of color. As a result, in 2013, a number of UUs developed the below as a proposed 8th UU principle. It reads, "We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote, journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions." It has since been adopted by 18 UU congregations, 1 religious education program, and 2 affiliate UU groups. The new Jim Crow, which is mass incarceration and the criminal justice system replacing the older systems of slavery and Jim Crow laws. Police violence against people of color, recent Supreme Court decisions on voting rights, trans rights, affirmative action, and the election of Donald Trump, with advisors and followers openly supporting white supremacists, show that the country is moving quickly and dangerously in the wrong direction. Many UUs believe we need to exert strong leadership to reverse these trends. So what about our congregation? As UUCC's stated purpose is to be a transforming spiritual community that acts to make the world better. We embarked over the past year on a period of discernment regarding the possibility of bringing the proposed eighth principle to the congregation for consideration. In 2015, the UUCC Board of Trustees amended N number 7. UUCC exists to promote justice, equality, and social responsibility, with special attention to racial justice, which intersects with all other justice issues. Adopting the eighth principle would strengthen the grassroots movement to pass similar language at the UUA level. Even so, we are keenly aware of the sensitivities surrounding issues of race and racism, both within UUCC and in the wider community. We honor the many in our congregation who have long fought for racial justice. We also recognize that people have had a wide variety of thoughts about the language and approach of this principle. We nonetheless felt it important to consider the eighth principle. On February 23rd, some 50 UUCC congregants discussed it in 4 separate conversation circles facilitated by BOT members. We heard a range of views, both pro and con. While some expressed the unequivocal support for the text as drafted, others raised objections to the substance and/or language of the text, suggesting that we not consider it further. Others questioned a focus on racism rather than other oppressions. Some shared concerns with the phrase accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions, feeling that accountability is not part of other UU principles, and that it could feed into what they maintain is an unhealthy call-out culture. Still, others were uneasy with the draft's language, but nonetheless expressed their support for adopting the principle. Will UUCC take this opportunity to make an explicit commitment to anti-oppression and anti-racism as an integral part of our congregational identity? The answer is in your hands, and that answer will be the collective expression of who we are as a congregation. With great love and respect, your Board of Trustees. Thank you.
Thank you. In the wake of the killing of George Floyd, we've had a kind of reckoning in this country, and churches, not just not just police forces, corporations, but it has also included churches, where they are having the kinds of discussions that we believe they need to have about these issues. Next, we will have Bobby Fleishman.
Hi, I'm Bobby Fleischman. I'm the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at Ferris State University. And my dream for Ferris State University is a campus of diversity and inclusion, and working together with one another across our differences in where we come from, who we are, and what we think, and coming together as one campus community to use our differences in a productive, meaningful way that brings us together to learn from one another, to expand our cultural literacy, and to live together, work together, and flourish together as a university of students, faculty, and staff who are one big, united university that sets the standard for diversity, inclusion, and equity in ways that provide a template for other universities to follow in terms of the best practices in managing diversity and inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have a video from John Thorpe. For those of you that haven't had the pleasure of meeting John, John's the reason I came to Ferris State University and helped with the founding of the Jim Crow Museum. And so he put together this video. Go ahead.
Good morning. I'm John Thorpe, a retired Ferris administrator who participated in the first 19 of these in-services. And I was intimately involved with the Jim Crow Museum when it was the little room with a big purpose. This morning, I would like to share with you a personal reflection. Life's a trip. Bring a paddle. I started my paddling trip on Lake Michigan when I was a Sea Scout. We stroked an 8-oared lifeboat out of Chicago's 59th Street Harbor. We just paddled around for a couple hours every Monday night. In high school, I paddled in the waters of St. Mary's Lake on the campus of the University of Notre Dame. There, I began to get some sense of the direction I would be paddling my life. For college, I moved over to St. Joseph's Lake behind the Golden Dome. By midterms of my freshman year, I was on my way to a career in higher education. I just didn't know which career. I then paddled on the Potomac River in Washington, D.C., and I was there when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in 1968. I left with a master's degree in Christian and Islamic theology. The time had come for the really big paddle along the shores of the Ganges River in East Pakistan at Notre Dame College. For 3 years, one horrendous cyclone, and the outbreak of civil war, I was part of the Third World. I paddled the Sulu Sea in the Philippines from Jolo to Bungao Island. I wanted to familiarize myself with Islam at the extremity of its spread from Mecca. I did a second paddle along the Ganges in Pabna district after Bangladesh gained its independence. I was on my way to a PhD from the University of Chicago for my study of Bangladeshi Muslim farmers. At 38 years old, I finally had to go to work. My professional career brought me back to South Bend, Indiana, along the shores of the St. Joseph River, at Notre Dame, St. Mary's College, and Memorial Hospital's Family Medicine Residency Program. And the culture shock of no longer being of the Third World, but teaching about it. Finally, it was on to the Muskegon River and Mr. Ferris's university, the university whose mission is to make the world better. I was part of a marvelous group of faculty and staff. They worked together to make Ferris and the world better. Equity in the classroom, diversity counts, the MLK Faculty Staff in-service, the Jim Crow Museum. These were the most demanding and the best paddles of all. I paddled on some life water clear as vodka and cold as Kelvin, and others not so much. Some contained sweet water, some not. Regardless of which I was on, I tried to care about what and who was all around me. Is this making the world better? We are born to die, Between these events, I certainly have covered a lot of water. To paraphrase Joseph Haywood in Covered Waters, now this my autumn I sit on a rock beside the composite river in my mind. The staghorn sumac behind me is rusty and brushed with brilliant orange under a falling sun, yellow poplars and crimson maples above. Waiting for night, when fireflies and stars will join to light my path, and the river will be in me, and I in it. The dream is to make the world better. Let us make it so.
Thank you, John, for that. Now we're at a singing part. Antoinette is still here, and you know, we are two Alabama folks up here, and I think about that when Antoinette is singing and when Antoinette has fried catfish and macaroni and cheese and cornbread, and I don't think anybody on this call knows and appreciates what I'm saying.
Oh, I do.
Okay, all right. So she could cook, or as we say in Alabama, she can burn, and she can also sing. And so Antoinette.
Thank you, David. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And yeah, I like to cook. You can probably look at me and tell I like to cook. But anyway, my name is Antoinette Smith-Epps, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to share with everyone today. I really appreciate also all of the other Ferris colleagues who've gone before me and shared. I'm going to sing a song called Precious Lord. This song was written in August 1932 by Thomas Dorsey. Precious Lord was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s favorite hymn. Dr. King gave his I've Been to the Mountaintop speech on April 3rd, 1968. The next evening, he was assassinated on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. He had just asked his colleagues to make sure that Precious Lord would be sung at the rally that was planned for that evening. This is my tribute to Dr. King. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired. I am weak.
Come on.
I am worn through the storm, through the night. Lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. When my way grows drear, precious Lord, linger near. When my life is almost gone, hear my cry, hear my call, hold my hand, lest I fall. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. When the darkness appears and the night draws near, when the day is past and gone. At the river I stand, guide my feet, hold my hand, take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. Thank you.
Thank you. Antoinette, you took me back to, to Mobile. Got me crying up here. Thank you so much. All right. So speaking of singing, Franklin is gonna play the song from the opening of the museum.
Oh no, nope. Antoinette's ringing or reading.
Okay. Yep. All right. You're right. Ida B. Wells. Okay. Very good.
Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer was born on October the 6th, 1917, and died of cancer March the 14th, 1977, at the age of 59. She was 2 years younger than I am now. She would have turned 101 years old this past October. Mrs. Hamer and her husband, Perry, were sharecroppers in Sunflower County, Mississippi, on the Marlowe plantation. She experienced many indignities in her lifetime, but perhaps the most lasting were experiencing an unconsented hysterectomy in 1961, from which she had absolutely no recourse, and being denied first-class treatment as an American citizen. She learned that Black people had the right to vote at a Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee meeting in 1962. Something that she had not known previously. But this sparked her civil rights activism. Mrs. Hamer is famously quoted as saying, "All my life, I've been sick and tired." Excuse me. "All my life, I've been sick and tired. Now I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." Of her activism, she said, "I guess if I'd had any sense, I'd have been a little scared. But what was the point of being scared? The only thing they could do was kill me. And it kind of seemed like they'd been doing that a little bit at a time ever since I could remember." She is considered a civil rights icon. Her words so powerful that President Lyndon Johnson held an impromptu news conference to preempt these words from being covered during primetime television hours on August the 22nd. Mrs. Hamer was vice chairperson of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, which was integrated, unlike the all-white Mississippi Democratic delegation. Mrs. Hamer was posthumously inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in 1993. I was privileged to receive an award named for her as an undergraduate political science student at Jackson State University. It is my great honor to share her testimony in its entirety. This testimony was given before the Credentials Committee of the Democratic National Convention on August the 22nd, 1964. Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee, my name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, and I live at 626 East Lafayette Street, Louisville, Mississippi, Sunflower County, the home of Senator James O. Eastland and Senator Stennis. It was the 31st of August in 1962 that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola to try to register to become first-class citizens. We was met in Indianola by policemen, highway patrolmen, and they only allowed 2 of us in to take the literacy test at the time. After we had taken this test and started back to Louisville, we was held up by the city police and the state highway patrolmen and carried back to Indianola, where the bus driver was charged that day with driving the bus the wrong color. After we paid the fine, among us, we continued on to Louisville, and Reverend Jeff Sonny carried me 4 miles to the rural area where I had worked as timekeeper and sharecropper for 18 years. I was met there by my children, who told me the plantation owner was angry because I had gone down and tried to register. They told me my husband came, and he said that the plantation owner was raising Cain because I had tried to register. And before he quit talking, the plantation owner came and said to me, "Fannie Lou, do you know, did Pap tell you what I said?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Well, I mean that. If you don't go down and withdraw your registration, you'll have to leave. Then if you go down and withdraw, you still might have to leave, because we're not ready for that in Mississippi." And I addressed him and told him and said, "I didn't try to register for you. I tried to register for myself." I had to leave that same night. On the 10th of September in 1962, 16 bullets were fired into the home of Mr. and Mrs. Robert Tucker for me. That same night, two girls were shot in Louisville, Mississippi, and Mr. Joe McDonald's house was shot in too. On June the 9th, 1963, I had attended a voter registration workshop and was returning back to Mississippi. 10 of us was traveling on the Continental Trailway bus. When we got to Winona, Mississippi, which is in Montgomery County, 4 of us got off to use the washroom, and some went to go to the restaurant. The 4 people who had gone to the restaurant was ordered out. During this time, I was on the bus, but when I looked through the window and saw they had rushed out, I got off the bus to see what had happened. And one of the ladies said it was a state highway patrolman and the chief of police who ordered us out. I got back on the bus, and one of the persons who had to use the restroom got back on the bus too. As soon as I was seated on the bus, I saw they began to get the 5 people into the highway patrolman's car. I stepped off the bus to see what was happening, and somebody screamed from the car that the 5 workers was in and said, "Get that one there." And when I went to get to the car, that man told me I was under arrest, and he kicked me. I was carried to the county jail and put in a booking room. They had left some of the people in the booking room and began to place us in cells. I was placed in a cell with a young woman called Miss Ivesta Simpson. After I was placed in the cell, I began to hear the sounds of licks and screams. I could hear the sounds of licks and horrible screams, and I could hear somebody say, "Can you say yes, sir? N-word, can you say yes, sir?" They would say other horrible names. And she would say, "Yes, I can say yes, sir." "So, well, say it." And then she said, "I don't know you well enough." They beat her, I don't know how long, and after a while she began to pray and ask God to have mercy on those people. And it wasn't too long before 3 white men came to my cell. One of these men was a state highway patrolman, and he asked me where I was from. I told him Louisville. He said, "We're gonna have to check this." They left, and when they came back before too long, he said, "You are from Louisville, all right? We're gonna make you wish you was dead." I was carried out of the cell into another cell where 2 Negro prisoners were. The state highway patrolman ordered the first Negro to take the blackjack. The first Negro prisoner ordered me, by orders from the state highway patrolman, for me to lay down on a bunk bed on my face. And I laid on my face, and the first Negro began to beat me. I was beat by the first Negro until he was exhausted. I was holding my hands behind me at the time on my left side because I suffered from polio when I was 6 years old. After the first Negro had beat me until he was exhausted, the state highway patrolman ordered the second Negro to take the blackjack. The second Negro began to beat, and I would work my feet. And the state highway patrolman ordered the first Negro who had beat me to sit on my feet to keep me from working my feet. I began to scream, and one white man got up and began to beat me in my head and tell me to hush. One white man, my dress had worked its way up high, walked over and pulled my dress. I pulled my dress down, and he pulled my dress back up. I was in jail when Medgar Evers was murdered 3 days later on June the 12th, 1963. All of this on account of we want to register to become first-class citizens. And if the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America. Is this America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off the hook because our lives are threatened daily, because we want to live as decent human beings in America?
The Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party was not seated at the Democratic Convention in Atlantic City in 1964, but succeeded 4 years later and was seated at the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Franklin, we're going to listen to the first part of the first song.
Hello everyone, my name is Byron, and we are The Voices. We are so honored to be before you today, and I just want to give a special shout out to Dr. Pilgrim. You've been a mentor and a role model for me since I've come to this university, and I definitely look up to you, and you have been an inspiration, and I look to you for advice and encouragement. And I just want to say congratulations on your big day. Let's give Dr. Pilgrim. We are going to sing for you, Keep Your Eyes on the Prize, Hold On, and We Shall Overcome. Paul and Silas bound in jail, had no money for the golden bell. Keep your eyes on the prize, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize, hold on.
Paul and Silas began to shout, the door popped open and they walked out. Keep your eyes on the prize, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize,
Hold on, hold on, hold on.
keep your eyes on the prize,
Hold on, keep,
hold on,
hold on,
hold on,
hold on.
keep your eyes on the prize,
Hold on, hold on,
keep your eyes on the prize,
hold on, hold on,
keep your eyes on the prize.
hold on. Thank you.
Yeah, so these are difficult days, but we're going to keep our eyes on the prize. I'm not going to make any comment about Fritz clapping off rhythm or my white socks in that thing. And so this year we're not out marching, but we want to show you like a minute or two from the most recent march, and then we'll give our award. So that was really good. I don't think that Byron, I was looking on the list of participants. I don't see Byron, but this year's MLK Award is given to Byron D. Brooks. Let me read what it says. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly, which is a quote from Dr. King. Given to Byron D. Brooks, this award is presented to express our deep appreciation for your selfless, passionate advocacy for justice. January the 18th, 2021. And so we'll manage to get this to him. And we're going to conclude our program with one last song.
I like this part right here. Come on. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the on till victory is won. Now we add a little something to it, just to encourage you. We're gonna take you to church later. Let's go. We'll keep marching right until the victory is won. To all my brothers out there, hold your head up, brother, till the victory is won. To all my sisters in the struggle, keep believing, sister, till the victory is won. Till that day. Till that day comes. Hey. Let us march on to victory. Till victory is won. Is won.
Amen. Thank you so much. Before we leave, everyone give Franklin a big hand for helping us navigate this. And you all have a good day.
Thank you all.